Broadcasting Corporation. I'll Eat My Hat, a series of illustrated talks on the history of sports broadcasting on the wireless. Your presenter is Mr. Desmond Lynam.
Hello. Some sports are thought to be totally unsuited to radio. Snooker, darts, polo, rifle shooting, ski jumping, air racing and yachting are examples. Yet, they're just some of the sports we'll be hearing today. In fact, since commentaries began in 1927, there are very few sports that BBC Radio hasn't tried at least once, even if some were never tried twice. We start with perhaps the least promising sport of all for a live radio commentary, angling. However, this 1946 broadcast from our man on the River Avon, Sir Grimwood Mears, may alter that assumption.
These South Country trout that have been fished for 60 years of the dry fly have, according to, well, Dr. Barton, who's a very eminent authority, acquired an hereditary shyness. And they know perfectly well from the very beginning that he's into it, he's got it. Good man, Sawyer, good man. Oh, great fellow. Oh, the fish plunging about on the top. Steady, Sawyer, keep him out of that weed. That's right, he's coming down here fast. He's coming down here fast. He's good fish. That's the very fish I was after. Good man, Sawyer. Now he's plunging about the top. Now he's coming down here. A lot of water lily here, Sawyer, under the surface. A lot of water lily. If once he gets into water lilies, it's good night mercy.
Sir Grimwood goes on to talk about a trout which is extremely well educated. He knows everything about the artificial fly. 2 years later, we find him back on the Avon with his good man, Sawyer.
Steady, Sawyer, don't be onto him too hard. Don't be onto him too hard. He's a big fish. Take it quietly, no hurry about it. Ah, yes, I know, but don't hurry him. We've only got 3x guts, you know, and you don't want to lose him now. It'll be an awful tragedy. Take him quietly. If you keep him out of the current a bit, I shall like it all the better, because it'll break my heart. Oh, he's turning over now. He's very nearly done. Very nearly done. He's heading to the net. He's in the net. Ha ha, hooray, he's in the net. Good business. Well, Sawyer, look here, what's the verdict? Is that fish a cannibal? What? Sawyer says he's afraid he'll have to kill him. When I got up this morning and saw a very cold day, I had what my children used to call a very gloomy gizzard about the whole matter. But I'm quite cheerful now. Well, Sawyer, what's he weigh? All right. Oh, he's not. Yeah, he's out of condition a bit, you know. Yes, that fish has been going back. And that's another reason why he should be killed. Instead of being 4.5 pounds, he's only just over 3.5. And dropping back in condition and eating his grandchildren means that the sentence passed upon him was just.
Nasty trait, that, in a fish. Another member of the aristocracy to have a microphone put in front of him was David Scott Moncrief, who was given the task of covering some vintage car racing at Alton Park in 1958, and like Sir Grimwood, his style was, well, very much his own.
Well, let me say a little bit about this race. It's a trophy given in the memory of Richard Seaman, one of the nicest chaps and finest drivers we ever had. There go the two leaders again, way out ahead of everybody. And much to everybody's surprise, Hull is still leading Moss. I've also seen another ERA having a scrap with... Oh, there goes my old Alpha going great guns, Mud's driving it. I was going to tell you about that 4.5 litre Bentley that was scrapping so extremely efficient with an ERA and holding it nicely. That was the third 98 again. It's a most remarkable setup because he's got a 4-cylinder engine with 3 carburetors on it, and it does go much faster than almost any other 4.5 litre unblown Bentley in existence.
Not exactly the working man's commentator. One of the most popular spectator sports and one of the most neglected by the media is Speedway. In 1933, John Snagg and H.W. Rawnsley Gerd were sent out to commentate on a sport which had not only never been heard on radio before, but had obviously never been seen by either of them before. Listen out for an excellent piece of waffle by John Snagg when the points fail to materialise on the scoreboard.
Now listen to the game. Jackson coming round, a very comfortable winner for Australia.
I'm afraid, listeners, this is the last chance we shall have to broadcast a race from here this evening. Mr. Rawnsley will give you the score as we leave it tonight, and you will get the resultings, the whole of the result score, in the news at 10:15. In just one moment, we'll give it the score as it leaves us. Put up the board with the result, and they give them the time, but they haven't yet given the score.
I don't know why there's so much delay for the score this time, because they've had it up very quickly here in the earlier heats. They put those scores up.
I suppose a race like this, a speedway race, produces a crowd which is to be seen nowhere else. It's really very enthusiastic. They cheer, and if they don't like them, they express their opinions. And as the cycles come round, each time they come round and pass the crowd, their supporters cheer their heads off almost.
Well, here's the board going up to the score. Australia have 37 points, England 59.
The following year, the BBC covered motorcycling, the Isle of Man TT. But when there are no bikes in view, you tend to get, well, more waffle.
There he goes. And now, of course, followed by Siegfried Dodgson, number 9. Brian Lewis has passed him, as I forecast, and that is the order. It seems a tremendous time before the next man turns up, sitting here at any rate. It seems much longer than the short period which elapses between the time they leave here and get back again. There's no further important news at my end.
That was Vernon Brooke. One commentator who was never short of words was Bob Bowman, a Canadian whose commentaries during the 1936 Winter Olympics inspired hundreds of letters of praise from listeners. He was rare in the 1930s in that the humour he brought to his broadcast was entirely intentional.
Hey! Oh, there's a left and a right uppercut, a right cross to the jaw, a left uppercut to the ribs, and the referee steps in between them. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a rebroadcast of the Peterson-Noisel fight. This is just a nice hockey match between England and the United States.
That was a Canadian broadcasting to Great Britain on Great Britain's Olympic ice hockey team, made up of Canadians, winning the gold medal. In the 30s, the BBC had a specialist on pub sports, Charles Garner, who himself organised many of the events he commentated on. Here are two. A battle between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie, a contest between dock workers and city clerks at Talbot House Skittle Alley in 1938. But first, a darts match from a year earlier.
He got one and left himself a double one, and he got it just outside. Now, this is Outerman play, the plumber. He requires double top. And it's game somebody's first out, a beautiful shot. First shot, the two players are hugging themselves in the middle. They are beautiful. They're lugging each other in the centre here. Just like what is known as, what should we call this, I'm getting a little bit excited myself. The players here, the people are standing up on their feet, clamouring the new champion of London and home counties for this competition.
The second man of the clerks going up, Mr. E.P. I understand he's a solicitor's clerk. I should expect he scored a return something like 6 and 8 or something like that. That's about the correct thing for a solicitor's clerk, but he got a very nice 6 the first time. That's just what I said. He got a 6 and 8. That's the correct thing for a solicitor's clerk. Up goes our first one, the trucker. We'll see what he does. He's got a floorer. You can hear the applause. He's got a floorer. He hit the centre pin and knocked the whole of the 9 pins down at once. Fine shot, and it's a very good shot, that is.
From the 1940s to the 1980s, Max Robertson was radio's expert on racket sports. However, this meant commentating almost exclusively on tennis, as squash and badminton were never much in demand. Here he explains why, and after that we'll hear why, in the only surviving squash and badminton broadcasts in the BBC archives.
The trouble is with badminton, and particularly squash, where you get these long, long rallies, it gets terribly boring if you try and keep up with it. And if you try and vary it and read the rally, as soon as you start doing that, or somewhere in your exposition of what's happening in the rally, it stops and catches you by surprise. And it just doesn't work.
Now, Wilson up the top gets it. It's game ball. We had 2 lets on this game ball. Most important point it is. Wilson down the backhand side wall. Karim gets it backhanded. Wilson mishit, but he got it back somehow. Karim, it'll drop to the forehand. Wilson up there to take it. Puts it on the forehand side wall. Karim back again, cross court, trying to wrong foot him on the backhand. Karim down the backhand side wall again. Wilson gets it. Puts it high. Karim, Wilson backhanded, rather shorter. Well judged one, but Karim reaches and gets it. All the players down the backhand side wall at the moment, both striving for position. Now, Wilson brings it across the forehand. It'll drop by Karim. Wilson reaches it. Wilson gets back the next one. Karim misses. No, he doesn't. He gets it up. He very nearly missed that, but Karim got it up. Now the rally's gone on. Wilson gets one. Forehand by Karim, cross court. Will Wilson get it? Yes, he just got it up, bursting it off the side wall. Karim now a little drop, which Wilson gets. Karim nearly missed it the next, but it went up. Wilson gets it. Karim, will Wilson get the next? He's got it. It's gone dead, and he's won the... Wilson has won the game.
And now in the first game, Wang Peng Soon is leading 13-6, or rather it's Eddie serving, Eddie Chung 6-13, a backhand by Eddie clearing under difficulties, and Wang smashes forehanded into the net. Short, beautifully built Eddie, like a rubber ball. He serves high to the baseline, a forehand by clear by Wang down to the baseline, a cross-court forehand drop by Eddie, a smash by Eddie, beautifully taken by Wang on the backhand. Now Wang smashes to the backhand, it comes back from Eddie, and Wang with a beautifully reversed angle shot beat Eddie there, and now serves at 13-7.
Eddie got around a bit. Here he is taking part in a village cricket match from 1937, commentated on by Tommy Woodruff.
And Eddie is bowling from the Chapel Farm end. Eddie's bowled the whole afternoon without change. Now here he comes. The crowd is thinned out a lot because of the rain, but the play goes on just the same. Most of the people now inside their motor cars instead of sitting on the ground outside. Eddie's bowling, and he's bowled quite well. There's a new fellow in for the Bourne, a tall man wearing a cap and a sweater, and he doesn't look at all comfortable. Doesn't look too easy to stand up out there. It looks a bit rather like a marsh. An easy catch, which is out. Well caught. Well caught by Arnold at mid-leg.
Tommy Woodruff there, completely failing to come up with a pun about cricket and ducks. One sport you don't seem to hear about much these days is air racing. In 1953, Raymond Baxter took part in and commentated on the London to New Zealand race, alongside a steward who was to become very well known some 10 years later.
And I was the 4th acting unpaid pilot and broadcaster. And John Profumo, who at that time was Under-Secretary of State for Air, I think, was the steward. And a very good steward he was, too. Great chap. We got to be very good friends.
Mr. John Profumo, who's sitting next to the Chief Executive, immediately facing me, has just said he's not quite sure what he wants more, a glass of Scotch whiskey or a cigarette. Well, I know what I want, and that's a cigarette, because the long-range fuel tanks, which we've carried in the cabin here and which have been such a significant factor in our whole flight and have given us this ability to fly 3,200, indeed 3,500 miles non-stop from the Cocos to Melbourne, these have, of course, denied us the pleasure of smoking. And for us, the London-New Zealand air race of 1953, the air race which people said was going to be disappointing. The air race which people indeed actually said was a flop. For us, it's over. And for me, as an airman, if I may say so, and as a chap who loves to fly, well, anyone who suggests that that was a flop can just step outside and meet me afterwards.
Sounds like he needed a glass of whiskey and a cigarette. Raymond Baxter was in a calmer mood when he interviewed the 95-year-old aviator and designer, Sir Tommy Sopwith.
At that time, of your German adversaries, who did you respect most?
I think probably Fokker, although he wasn't a German.
Before the Second World War, commentary boxes were full of military men such as Captain H.B.T. Wakelam, Colonel R.H. Brand, Commander Tommy Woodruff. One of the lesser known was Major Phipps Hornby, perhaps because his specialist sport was polo.
And the Maharaja passed it right on to Guinness. Butler rides Guinness. Butler, I think, has got him this time. Butler gets it. Butler gets the ball, hits it rather under his neck, and Guinness pretty soon comes in. It looks like a cross against Guinness, but nothing's happened. No, away goes Guinness with the ball and overhit it. And here comes Hamilton Russell. Hamilton Russell backed him up and now got the ball absolutely in the centre of the ground. Hit it up. Butler is there. Butler's there to backhand it. He's backhanded it right up in the air, and Guinness is on it here in front of me now, dribbling it round. Very well indeed. He's got it again. Now he's going to make his shot, and the world attack. The world attack right up into the middle, but Butler is there. No, it's in his dawning. He saved it. He saved it, and Guinness is coming again, and making a near side shot, and a beauty he's made. A beautiful shot right in the middle of the goal. Looks like a goal. Looks like a goal to the world, and it is. It is.
That was India's polo team back in 1939 playing against the world. Always a tough draw, that one. In the same year, W.L. Hunter was sent up to the Highland Games in Crieff. This example shows that it's a good idea to do just a bit of background research before you go on air.
Catch-a-scan wrestling is, to all intents and purposes, the all-in wrestling that you know so much about and hear so much about, but there are certain rules and regulations. Quite frankly, I don't know what they are. I may be able to find out later on before we leave. But at the moment, in the centre of the arena, there are two burly men throwing each other about in the most amazing manner. They're lying on the ground just now, hugging each other rather affectionately, but there's an occasional spasmodic squirm as the fellow underneath tries to reverse the decision. The winning point is when you get two shoulders and a buttock on the ground, or two buttocks and a shoulder. It's known technically as getting three corners on the ground. And the contortions that these fellows can get themselves into in an effort to reach that and achieve it is really remarkable. The fellow underneath the snow is wriggling about rather like a Neil in a frantic effort to keep at least one shoulder clear of the ground, while his opponent presses down with all his weight on him. The underneath chap has now turned himself face downwards, got up on his knees and his hands in a crouching position, rather like a youngster crawling along the floor, whilst his opponent, who's a bald-headed man, incidentally, is trying to get just that grip. It'll throw him back onto the ground again, but rather unsuccessfully. He's only just managed to push them together, and now they're squatting on the ground like a couple of frogs for all the world.
Raymond Glendenning showed how minor sport should be done when he was given the task of commentating on rifle shooting's King's Prize in 1946. All the jargon just rolled off the tongue.
And there goes Willett's third and final shot. There's terrific suspense here. Away that target disappears, the plain sand, and it's only another inner. So now, it gives Maxwell a possible now to tie again if he gets a bull. Willett has now dropped 2 points, has scored 13 out of the shoot-off of 50. Quite a natural silence. Maxwell sighting his target. I can just see him over the top of the blackboard there. There it goes. The bullet's on his way. Nothing can bring it back now. And we only want to see now where that little black square comes up. Down goes the target. Going down slowly. It's a magpie 3-0. He's dropped 2 points, and C.C. Willett, squadron leader C.C. Willett, is the champion. The first man up to congratulate him is Major Maxwell.
Now, snooker may fill up hours of television schedules, but it's never really worked successfully on radio. Although, if producers were to listen to Joyce Gardner's commentary on this match for the 1946 World Championship between Joe Davis and Horace Lindrum, they might change their attitudes.
He's potted the brown, it was on its own spot, it's replaced, which makes the break 96. Here we're going to get 100 break, the first one ever recorded. He's playing with his left hand. The yellow is on its own spot, and he's screwing back. He's got perfect position on the green. Oh, he wants this to make the 100. It's 97. He's got the 100. The 100. It's a wonderful break. It's a wonderful break. Oh, Joe, you are a good player.
One of the unlikelier sporting events captured by radio happened in 1950, when the BBC covered ski jumping on Hampstead Heath. Douglas Willis was on the spot.
And the snow, which has been brought from Norway, some 40 tons of it, has been placed in position during the afternoon, and is there nicely now, packed and solid, as the jumpers hurtle down, and one's coming now. He gathers speed, he reaches the edge, and he goes over as the crowd give a roar, and he arrives beautifully at the bottom, goes on, and crashes into the hay as the crowd give him some applause. They're applauding each competitor as he goes down, and they're reserving their best applause for some of the better-known champions who are being announced over the loudspeaker system.
What he didn't disclose was how the crowd could tell the better-known ski jumpers from the less well-known ones. Yachting is perhaps the sport least suited to commentary. You can't say at the start of a round-the-world yacht race there's only 6 months to go, it couldn't be more exhilarating. Or at the end, claim an exciting finish with the second-place yacht just 8 days behind the first. One man who gave it a go was a former Olympic yachtsman, now best remembered as a naturalist and painter, Sir Peter Scott, commentating on the 1958 America's Cup.
We're watching now from quite a distance away, and so it's difficult from this angle to see exactly when she is going to cross the line, but she's creeping up to the buoy on very close hold on the starboard tack. The wind has come nearly round. This ought to have been a dead run and is a pinch up to cross the line. And there she goes. I hear them all hooting up there. And the gun must have gone. And Columbia is across, the winner of the first in this 17th series of challenges for the America's Cup. Scepter comes along. Oh, I should think nearly half a mile astern.
During his 40-year career broadcasting on radio, Raymond Baxter would commentate on anything, as long as it involved an engine, aeroplanes, motorbikes, motor cars, and, as in this example, powerboats.
John Wadden's Jack of Diamonds turning and being outturned, that is to say, passed on the inside by Peter Baker's touchdown. Number 23, Alf Bullen in Muffin, who is in third place now, very nearly 3/4 of a lap behind the leader. Bill Shakespeare now just coming into the turn in second place and about to lap Mal Bacon's Overdraft. Bill Shakespeare with his Shakespeare Special, a very famous name in outboard racing this.
Perhaps the most obscure sport of all is played only at a certain school in Berkshire. Tim Matthews reported on the Eton Wall game in 1962.
And it alternates between periods of apparent complete inactivity and sudden movements of about 3 yards each as 20-odd faces get scraped up the venerable red brick wall. Pummeling of various kinds can be seen at intervals, so I asked a mud-stained Anthony Letts, keeper of College Wall, what exactly was allowed by the rules.
The umpires are in fact supposed to stop you from actually hitting the other side. You're allowed to gouge their eyes out and you're allowed to stamp on their knees, but apart from that, I'm afraid you can't indulge in many sort of forms of violence. And the object is to try and, to get underneath the other side so they are forced sort of to fall over on their backs and look rather stupid.
Recording was vaguely discouraged during the game, presumably lest angry, un-Etonian words were overheard, so for the most part I joined the throngs of well-dressed spectators, one of whom remarked that he'd been playing the game for 3 years and he still didn't know what it was all about. In fact, the rules are so complicated that no one has scored a goal on St. Andrew's Day for over 50 years, a fact which, it is rumoured, may possibly lead to a review of the rules in the next 20 years or so.
And some people say Arsenal are boring. One sport we haven't brought you today is archery because the only known example of it hasn't survived in the archives. Robert Hudson, former head of Outside Broadcast, tells the story.
The one thing I remember most, I think, was our attempts at an archery report.
We only did this once for reasons which may become obvious. The reporter, I can't remember his name, had written his report out and gave it to a taxi driver to bring to Broadcasting House, Manchester, to deliver to the studio. Well, this man duly appeared, and as we didn't know what the reporter looked like, the producer assumed that this was a reporter, so he ushered him into the studio, and sat him down behind the microphone. He was introduced by the presenter, and he read the report. And he got out and went out of the studio with a rather bemused look on his face and resumed his duties as a taxi driver.
In the next programme, we concentrate on the career of Raymond Glendenning, who from the early 40s to the early 60s was the voice of football, boxing and horse racing, among other sports. Until then, goodbye.
You have been listening to I'll Eat My Hat, one of a series of illustrated talks on the history of sports broadcasting on the wireless. The presenter was Mr. Desmond Lynam. It was compiled and written by Mr. Bill Matthews, with additional research by Mr. Simon Bullivant. The production assistant was Miss Elaine Wigley. The producer was Mr. Richard Edis.